All right, let's dive into something you probably don't think about, but it's happening all around you, right this second. I'm talking about an unseen battle, the fight against waste. Okay, let's kick things off with a little riddle. What in the world connects a rusty old gate, a jar of jam, and a fleece jacket? I know, they sound completely random, right? But believe it or not, there's a single, powerful idea that ties them all together. So, what is it? Well, they're all players in this invisible battle we're fighting every single day. A battle against decay, and on the flip side, for preservation. Okay, so if we're gonna win this fight, we've gotta know our enemy, right? And this enemy is relentless. It's a force that's constantly attacking our buildings, our tools, our infrastructure. We're talking about decay and corrosion. The fancy term for it is corrosion. Basically, it's the gradual destruction of metals because of chemical reactions with their environment. You could almost think of it like the environment is slowly eating the metal away. And the most famous example of this, the one we all know, is, you guessed it, rust. So how does rust even happen? The chemistry behind it is actually super simple. It's like a recipe with just 3 ingredients. You take some iron, which is what steel is mostly made of, add a little oxygen from the air and some water, and boom, you get rust. That's really all it takes. But, some things can really put this whole process into overdrive. Think about salt in the air if you live near the ocean, or acid rain. Even just higher temperatures or a simple scratch on the surface. All these things create a weak spot, kind of like an open door, for rust to get in and spread way, way faster. Now, this battle isn't just happening out there on metal gates and cars. Nope. It's also happening right inside your kitchen, probably in your fridge as we speak. I mean, what about our food? It's facing its own little army of destructive forces. The enemies of freshness, they might be microscopic, but man, are they mighty. You've got bacteria and mold just waiting for a little warmth and moisture to throw a party. You've got enzymes inside the food itself that cause that ugly browning on an apple. And then there's oxidation, which is what makes fats and oils go rancid. They're all working 24/7 to break our food down. So, with all these forces of decay constantly at work, how do we possibly fight back? Well, it turns out we're pretty clever. Over centuries, humanity has built up this incredible arsenal of techniques to hold the line and, win the fight. All right, when it comes to rust, our main strategy is all about creating a barrier. Simple, right? Painting a gate or greasing up a bike chain, that just puts a protective layer between the metal and the elements. We can even dip stuff, like wire shelves, in plastic to seal them up completely. But the coolest method, the really clever one, is called galvanizing. The science behind this is so smart. It's called sacrificial protection. We basically coat the iron with a different metal that's more reactive, something like zinc. And what happens is, the zinc basically jumps in front and says, "Take me instead." It corrodes first, sacrificing itself to save the iron underneath. It's an amazing trick we use to protect really important stuff like lampposts and roofing. And we have a just as clever arsenal for our food. The whole idea is to make the environment totally hostile for those little microbes. So we dry things out, like with biltong, to take away the water they need to survive. We freeze stuff, which just stops them cold in their tracks. Or we add preservatives. Think about the sugar in jam or the vinegar in pickles that make it impossible for them to grow. Okay, so in our big quest to invent materials that could defeat decay once and for all, we came up with something that might be too good at its job. Plastic. I mean, it is the undisputed champion of preservation, but that incredible durability, well, it's created a whole new set of problems. Okay, this is super important. Not all plastics are created equal. They basically fall into 2 main families. First, you have thermoplastics. Think of your PET water bottles. Their chemical structure lets them get soft when heated, so we can melt them down and reshape them. That's why they're recyclable. But then you have the other families, thermosetting plastics, like the stuff your electrical plugs are made of. Their chemical bonds are super rigid and cross-linked. If you try to reheat them, they just burn, so you can't recycle them. It's a one-way street. And here's the absolutely staggering consequence of that durability. That plastic bottle you might use for 10 minutes? It can take over 450 years to decompose. Let that sink in. 4.5 centuries. And that incredible lifespan comes at a huge, huge cost to our planet. It pollutes our land, clogs our drains, and chokes our oceans, harming wildlife in devastating ways. And it gets worse. These plastics break down into tiny little fragments called microplastics, which are now showing up in our food chain. And on top of all that, we make the stuff from oil, a finite resource that we can never get back. So we've created this miracle material that just won't go away. What's the game plan now? Well, the only thing that makes sense is to completely change how we think about it. We have to stop seeing it as disposable trash and start seeing it as a valuable resource. And that, my friends, is where we close the loop with recycling. So what actually happens to that bottle you toss in the recycling bin? How does it become something new? Well, its journey starts with collection and then careful sorting. After that, it gets a good cleaning, then it's shredded into tiny flakes. Those flakes are then melted down and formed into little pellets. And these pellets, they're the raw material for a whole new life. And this is where it all comes full circle. Those little pellets can be spun into fibers to make things like carpets and, wait for it, fleece jackets. Remember our riddle from the very beginning? There's your connection. But it doesn't stop there. Recycled plastic becomes park benches that will never rot, new bottles, even building materials. It's a literal trash to treasure story. But here's the thing. This whole incredible system, this entire battle plan we've laid out, it all hinges on one final, absolutely critical element. And it's not some fancy machine or a new chemical, it's you. Let's get real for a second. This is the situation right here in South Africa. For all the plastic waste we create, we're only recycling about 15% of it. 15. That huge gap, that other 85%, is what's ending up in our landfills, our rivers, and our oceans. Right now, this is the part of the battle we are losing, badly. But we can close that gap. We really can. It all starts with a simple idea, that our small, individual actions have a massive, collective impact. Choosing to recycle that one bottle, saying no to a plastic bag, carrying a reusable cup. It feels small, but I promise you, it all adds up. You see, every time we preserve something, whether it's a bolt from rusting, a slice of fruit from spoiling, or a bottle from the landfill, we're doing more than just fighting decay. We're actively building something better. Every single one of those little victories is a tangible step toward a cleaner, more sustainable, and less wasteful future for all of us. So I'll leave you with this. The final question really is for you. Now that you know you're on the front lines of this unseen battle, what's one small change you're going to make, starting today, to help us all win?